over several of the Fire Emblem related things that I've missed lately. The character bios, where I can actually go into their outfits and my feelings on those, are still going to come later. I've actually already recorded Boucherons and 80s. But I was on vacation, and like I said in the trailer video, and for the trailer, it was fine. I was able to go through that. And then I thought, like, okay, I can be in vacation mode now, and that was that was wrong. Fire Emblem has no intention of slowing down, I think. There are so many characters now, and a little less than 2 months until release, that we're probably going to be getting character bios a little bit more frequently now, which is fine. I needed to, instead of slowly go over everything, take this time to compile all of it, and this is a compilation video, but over time there will still be time to really go in deeper into specific things, like as the emblems come out and as new skills come out and new characters. There's so much stuff to come out with and so much stuff to cover that has already gone the in-depth covers in other places, that I just kind of wanted to go here. So for this video, I will kind of be assuming that you know a little bit of the context of Fire Emblem Engage. If not, then hopefully I'll be able to help you catch up pretty easily. But just know that those character bios are still coming separately. Okay, so where I left off was I filmed some bios for Boucheron and Edie, and we got a little bit of information about Firene, about Firene, and Alfred, Celine, and Eve, the queen. In order, the first thing we got was Diamant and Alchrist reveals. I'll go into my thoughts on their costumes and what I know about their personalities there, but what's worth knowing is we're starting to get that trend, right? Alfred and Celine, and then now Diamant and Alchrist. And so we have this organized in such a way that from the first two of four kingdoms, we have two nobles, one who's on the box art, and then the other one who is not on the box art but is on the special art, or the special edition artwork. It's funny because I remember throughout all of these videos, we got a few times some confirmation. We haven't gotten bios on characters like Ivy and Hortensia, or Tamara and Figado yet. We got their names. Those are the other four royals, Ivy and Hortensia being sisters, well, half-sisters, from Lucia, who will join our army. Which is really funny because they painted them as bad guys, and then like 3 days later, we're like, yeah, by the way, they are actually allies, them, and they're retainers. But anyway, they will be joining our army, and so will Tamara and Figado at some point. They are brother and sister, with Tamara being older. The interesting thing this creates is 4 kingdoms with 8 characters, but gender ratios are even, 4 men, 4 women. And on the box art, only the 4 oldest show up. That being Alfred, Diamant, Ivy, and Tamara. And then on the special edition, the younger siblings show up, them being Celine, Alchrist, Hortensia, and Figado. I'm a fan of that. Like, I kind of like it when it's well and evenly split like that. But it's also really funny to me because I still remember one of the biggest complaints Fire Emblem Fates receives post actual release was too many noble characters, to the point where between the 8 royals of the 2 regions, the 4 and 4, and each having 2 retainers, that gives you a pretty solid court of 24 characters who are just noble or the retainers to nobles. Now, instead of having 2 nations with 4, there are 4 nations with 2, and each seem to have 2 retainers again. So we're still at 24 either noble or noble adjacent characters. Not much has changed there, and I mean, it's okay. It's not like it's an end all be all problem. And like I've said, this game is going to be referencing a lot of other games, and if nothing else, just take it as a little Fates nod. It's just funny to me that they've fallen into that same trap, although, hey, this time, the nobles can marry each other a lot more because none of them, well, much fewer of them are related. So if there is any marriage, or at least supports that end in marriage, like how kind of 3 Houses did it, you can have more royal weddings and tile the nations together and all that. That'll be fun for some people's, like, playthroughs and interconnected world kind of settings. So just a fun thing. I think it's not a problem. I'm not mad that there's going to be so many nobles, especially because they seem very interesting, and I think it helps that since we're exploring 4 different regions, we get better look at many different cultures, whereas just Hoshido and just Nor gives us two sets, and then getting so many noble characters on every side is hard because it's like, well, I get it. I understand Hoshido and I understand Nor, but now there's two on each side. And the other cool thing about it is, I mean, basically two from Hoshido and two from Nor are the ones that really rose above and remained popular. So now, since there's four and there's only two of each, maybe they'll all kind of have some time to shine, and nobody will kind of get dropped to the wayside. So that's a good thing, right? I think it's good. I think it's okay. But yeah, that was just something that I really did feel like was worth talking about. It's not like a issue. I don't think anyone's taking a big problem with it. Some people I think are a little bit annoyed, but I don't think they're like mad. And if you are, then please don't let that be the only thing you're thinking about with this game, because there's so much stuff. There's a lot of promising content headed our way, so please don't let that be the end all be all for you. But it's kind of a funny thing that they were like, oh yeah, 8 was too many, and then now we're still getting 8 just differently. I've got a love IS for that accidental. I don't even know. It's almost like they were teasing. It's almost like they knew. But again, I really do think that 2 for 4 nations is a lot of it. It's a much stronger choice than 4 for 2 nations. So that's a little bit of a trend going on. Diamant is a strong character. He is the crown prince of the Kingdom of Might, so very strong, but he also went and got an education, and he's being trusted by his people. He's in line to be the next king, and he's earned the trust of the people. Brodia is a kingdom of might, so you have to prove yourself with power, and that does show in his moveset. We see that he's got swords and blades. Blades seem to be returning, which are slower but stronger hitting swords. I think that's a surprising addition, but an exciting one for me. Alchrist is a much more pessimistic and self-loathing individual. He's got nervous behaviors. He compares himself to his brother, but he is more so gearing up to be a diplomat, because if Diamant's going to be the king, Alchrist's job, he needs something to do, I guess, Brodia looks a lot more like a familiar kingdom. Firene has very beautiful and flowery architecture, very spring-like. I live somewhere where there is no spring. It is always summer here. And I think that Brodia would actually be more of a fall type kingdom. But still, the brown hues and the buildings, the architecture of it it feels more familiar to me. So I'm excited to travel there, but I'm definitely not as drawn to it aesthetically. Okay, after we got that is when we got a really big one. We got the reveal of Emblem Marth and of Emblem rings as a whole. This is what I want to break down much more individually later on as they reveal them one by one. But for now, emblems are even more involved than we thought. What I mean by that is emblems, each one has multiple abilities. One is giving key weapons to characters, but there are also passives or active abilities that aren't necessarily used in combat, rather. For example, Byleth can use an area dance, and these skills are actually based off of things from the game. Byleth's dancing to refresh turns for everyone surrounding whoever is equipped to Byleth is a way to reference the Divine Pulse. With Divine Pulse, it's because you were on time, but Emblem Byleth can just refresh those turns like a dancer. Again, everybody has some of these skills. We see quite a few of them. We have yet to see what Lucina does, and she's one that's exciting to me, but I do believe that she has something to do with the Awakening, which is... it gets roundabout, right? Because Lucina's Awakening skill from this game is actually a reference to Fire Emblem Fates, not to Awakening. Because in Fire Emblem Fates, Lucina gets this skill for her Great Lord class when she's used as a DLC amiibo-type character. Chrom is the only character that performs the actual Awakening, so this Awakening will be more like the skill than like the rite or the passage. And just for reference, what that skill was so the hit rate, avoid, critical rate, and the critical evade were increased by a flat 30. It's a pretty good skill. It was Lucina's skill in Fates, and it was also actually ported to Lucina in Fire Emblem Warriors as a passive ability. And, it increases the damage dealt during the Awakening mode that everybody had. The Awakening title there's 3 games in that it's given to Lucina. The one where it isn't is Fire Emblem Awakening, where it's only done by Chrom. why that matters is Crom's skill, if he were in this game, wouldn't be awakening anyway, most likely. Which sounds weird to say because he is literally referred to as the Awakener. So that's something worth keeping in mind, because at the end of this video I'll get into a theory on how the emblems might work and how there might be more than 12, despite very explicit verbiage that there are 12. Anyway, we know that skill of hers, but we don't know what sorts of passives she has, or if that is her passive, what active abilities she'll do. The other interesting thing about emblems is that they do change every character's hair color, not just Alir's. So when engaged with Marth, the character's hair turns light blue, so Alir's turns to a lighter shade. Celica makes your hair turn pinkish. Sigurd goes for a more white or platinumish blue. Leaf and Roy I haven't seen yet, but then Lynn is of course a light green. And then Erica we haven't seen yet, but put a pin in that because that's an important one. Like Micaiah, Lucina of course, because we haven't seen her at all. Corin turns the hair white. And then the surprising one to me, I think, was Byleth turns their hair purple. Almost calling on Byleth's good old friend Shez, who's sadly absent, but it's not surprising considering, first off, Shez is from a spin-off game, and secondly, they were in development along the same time as each other, so it's unlikely for Shez to appear. We could get a mention, or like a customizable item or something related to them. If it's a love letter to the whole franchise, it would be nice to get something for Shez, but again, Shez is a little bit late. Okay, so that's kind of the gist of the rings, right? New skills, new passives, and engaging does actually have these physical alterations as well. The last thing I really want to mention on them is that when you engage, you have 3 turns in the engaged form, and then you have to take a few turns to charge up your engage meter, and Alir's personal skill increases that charge meter by 1. So they're effectively a mixture of I believe they're called ultimate skills or special skills from Fire Emblem Heroes, mixed with the original beast units from games like Fire Emblem, Path of Radiance, and Radiant Dawn, before we used beast stones. That's a pretty interesting way to kind of reincorporate that mechanic, but it's not quite the same because the beasts, when they weren't transformed, had a very hard time standing in battle. So they'll have a better time now, I guess. But still, it's kind of nice to get something similar to that mechanic back. Alright, moving up, we did get Anna introduced, and that was interesting because I was kind of thinking, like, okay, well, we got Diamants and Alchrist, so next up it's got to be, first off, Alchrist retainers and then Diamants, or something like that. But no, actually, we instead got Anna, who is a traveling merchant. We don't know exactly which kingdom she originates in yet. I don't know if we'll find out. I kind of doubt we will. And while I will again go into the animations, the outfit, and all that stuff in a separate video, Anna uses a battle axe, which is a very interesting weapon of choice to me. I mean, we got it in Fire Emblem Heroes, and Fire Emblem Heroes is a Fire Emblem game, so they do want to reference it in some ways. But I'm just still used to, like, thinking, I thought in the next mainline game she would be an archer again. I'm kind of used to her with bows and staves. So this is interesting. I think this is a cool choice. But hopefully she's actually useful, since she is part of this game early on. Unlike, games like Three Houses, where she was kind of strong-armed in by the fans. I do think that she'll have supports. I think it's actually been confirmed that she'll have supports, but through leaks, and, that stuff is never... Even if the leak was real, things get cut and changed, so it's not 100% reliable. But it's very likely that she will have supports, which is promising. Alright, so after that, we got bigger introduction into Marth specifically. So we learned about some of his skills and some of the effects of equipping Marth. I think some things worth noting are that when you're engaged to Marth, you get divine speed, so your speed goes up quite a lot. I don't know the exact numbers yet, but he does increase speed. He's able to increase the number of attacks you do. And when you initiate combat, you're more capable of dodging return attacks, which is important. Something that'll be fun to go really in-depth into later, but we do kind of know, like, there are quite a few. There are way more than one things they do. And this is in addition to giving you access to some of their... And this is in addition to giving you access to some of their signature weapon. And then we also got a pretty good Sigurd video. Sigurd coming second surprised me, because I did think they were going to return to just going We got Marth, Celica, Sigurd. I thought we would get Marth, Celica, Sigurd again, just with more information and more detail. But Sigurd does seem like he will be the second ring we obtain in the story, so maybe they want to kind of get him done early. But even then, I mean, he would be done before the game comes out. I think this really does highlight more attention to Sigurd, which continues to be all right. And that really was like our last official news that we have so far. So we did get quite a lot, but in all of these videos, if you've seen them, you can see kind of the characters engaged with each other. And some people have noticed, here's a compilation of all of the characters found, there seems to be a 13th emblem. That portrait, while it could be due to lighting or a model that was changed or reusing assets that have been updated and fixed later, those things happen a lot. This 13th emblem doesn't quite match any of them currently, but he does have a lighter shade of hair. It's not the dark blue of characters like Marth, Ike, Crom, Lucina, in Sigurd, Salif, the Fire Emblem Blue, but it's also not the green of Lyn. It looks actually quite similar to Erica's teal. It's quite possible, since we don't know what Erica's ability is, that she has a secondary skill that transfers her ring over to Ephraim. Maybe two emblems are living in the same ring. So we still have to collect all 12 rings. There are 12 rings, but there are actually 13 emblems. Or maybe post-game, Ephraim joins. Maybe when Erica's ring is corrupted or when Erica's in trouble, Ephraim somehow comes to find his sister and save her. I think it would be nice because it's cool to see Ephraim because he is great. If that last one is how we get him, it's a little disappointing that they just can't seem to let Erica be the lead unit. She's always overshadowed, including in her Brave outfit. She just wears Ephraim's outfit. But it's nice to potentially have him. And of course, if Ephraim's there, then what does that mean for characters like Crom and Salif? It's interesting because in this case, Ephraim isn't the main character. Like, a lot of people do prefer him, and he is very much important and like goes alongside her. But Erica is the main character if you had to pick one. Whereas in both Sigurd and Lucina's case, they aren't. While Fire Emblem 4 is a bit harder to really hammer in, the actual hero of the story, the build up, maybe not the part people remember as much, but the big build up, it is all around Salif. Awakening, it's Crom without really the question there. So, in both of those cases, the main character's the one that's missing. So, is this to give their close secondary family members a time to shine, or will they be reachable somehow? Now, we know that characters do have supports with emblems or some sort of conversation. We actually saw Alchrist and Byleth talking. I don't think Ephraim, or if we get them characters like Crom, Ellawood, Hector, Salif, like, I don't think that they would get dialogue, uh, either in the story or with supports. At the most, maybe they'll be mentioned or they'll somehow come in to some other supports. Maybe if certain people are talking to Lucina, then Crom will be chatting alongside. I don't think they'll be like the emblems. Like, they won't have supports. I don't think they won't have bond level ups. Their skills will be very similar to whoever wielded the emblem originally. But it's still promising to me. I mean, especially the old characters, seeing them kind of revived and revitalized with the 3D assets in this. I mean, Ephraim wasn't in Warriors either, so while I would prefer to have my favorite character show up, at least for like a character like Ephraim, this would mean that we get a first shot getting his 3D model and getting him in the more updated system. So it would be really nice to see. But obviously right now that is just very theoretical, based off of one image that could be some sort of a beta feature or scrapped altogether anyway. But the really great thing is that it opens the doors for future DLC, and it really expands what it could mean for the emblems and for who could come. So I'm really excited about that and about that possibility and these potential things. But for now, I just wanted to kind of close all of this off and recap this because things are about to hit the fan, and there was no way that I catch up. And since I was off on vacation, I wasn't able to properly record this as it was coming out. So here's the wrap up. Here's the summary. Over time, we'll get more in depth with everything mentioned here really hit home with what's going on with these characters. But great. Thank you everybody for your time today. Back to the usual setup soon. Promise that much. But awesome. Take care. Thank you very much, and until the next time I see you.